Thank you very much, Neha. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What we are going to discuss today would be, one second. What we are going to discuss today would be OCT biomarkers in diabetic retinopathy. A biomarker is a naturally occurring molecule, gene, or characteristic which may be measurable and by which the pathology or disease process can be identified or prognosticated. And here today we are looking at imaging. First thing we will look at is quantitative information, right from retinal thickness and volume in many machines. It is repeatable, reproducible, and over different areas like ETDRS circles of 500 microns. There will be inner and outer rings, and it is always calculated by segmentation. This is a typical volumetric or quantitative measure, which this is out of a Cirrus machine, and this is a very important thing that it is useful in detecting subclinical macular edema for a close follow-up, invaluable in longitudinal follow-up of patients, and indicated in diabetic macular edema always. But we should know how much thickening is actually retinal thickening. So different machines have different thickening measures like Zeiss, Cirrus. For males and females, it is different as far as Heidelberg also. There's a little bit of increased thickness which is read in Heidelberg. Now let us go into the qualitative information. So we all look at quantitative information before we treat any patient, but qualitative information gives us a lot of information regarding the prognosis of the patient, etc. These are the changes in morphology of the VR interface, the inner layers, the outer layers, and change in reflectivities. So before that, let us go into a OCT classification that is very widely accepted, like spongy, cystoid, SMD, vitreomacular traction, plaque, and mixed. So these are some examples of spongy edema where there is a spongy overall edematous thickening. And when you have limited to the cysts, maybe smaller cysts or larger cysts, we say it's a cystoid macular edema. Then we have sensory neural detachment or SMD. And then we have the vitreoretinal interface problems, which Dr. Dipender just dealt with. It can also occur in diabetics with taut hyaloid or vitreomacular adhesion or traction, which is more of a vertical component. So these are different things. So what qualitative changes are we actually looking for in these OCTs? One is thickening, obviously, and loss of the contour, and then hyporeflective spaces within the retina, which is the inner retina, the swollen Muller cells, etc. Then the hard exudates, the epiretinal membranes, the VMT, the cystoid spaces, the submacular detachment, the high reflective spots, ISOS junction is a very important thing in the outer retina, presence of drill in the inner retina, and a combination of all these factors. Usually when you look at an OCT, a combination of these factors may be looking at it. So let us go to them one by one. Cystoid spaces represent areas of necrosis of Muller cells and adjacent cells. They can be small, intermediate, or large. The larger the space, generally, it is more chronic. And it's black non-reflective spaces surrounded by medium or low reflective septae. So that's a small cystoid space, but you can see there's a large cystoid space which may tell us that this is a more chronic disease. What about a submacular detachment? It's a low reflective area under the neurosensory retina and over the RPE. It is well defined, and some people have talked about traction, some people have talked about duration, and about systemic factors like renal failure and high blood pressure. Now, this is a submacular detachment. And next thing that we will look at is ELM and the ISOS integrity, which are very thin layers just on top of the retinal pigment epithelium. So interface abnormalities are hyperreflective lines just above the inner retina, and there could be points of adhesion, multiple points of adhesion, and also retinal distortion. There could be a significant vertical component like that, or maybe a little bit of thing only. There could be questionable traction, etc. Now, disorganization of the inner layers means that the inner layers are completely disorganized. You can see that there is no structural integrity seen, which can also be there in multiple mixed patterns. Now, these are hyper-reflective spots. At this point of time, I would like to make a small difference between hyper-reflective spots, which are small dots in the inner retina, whereas hard exudates are more reddish and, they are seen in the further inner retina. ISOS junction, ELM, I just told you, they are very important in looking at the prognosis. Now, newer classification systems based on OCT will take into account the thickening, the morphology of edema, which was mentioned already, the topography, the VR interface, how it is, the inner retinal and outer retinal problems. So Involving all these, we have to basically talk about an OCT. So based on retinal thickening means it could be central involved, non-central involved. Thickness could be no edema, subclinical edema, or established macular edema. The morphology I already mentioned, spongiform, cystoid, serous macular detachment, etc. Topography is non-significant macular edema versus clinically significant. Presence of traction based on the vitreomacular interface, and inner retinal problems like cystoid space, hyperreflective spots, drill and hard exudates, and then outer retinal integrity, ISOS, ELM, intact or distorted. Now let us look at some of the cases. There is no PVD here. Cystoid spaces of multiple sizes are there. There is a little bit of drill and retinal thickening, and there is an intact ISOS junction. So here again, there's another patient in which no PVD, retinal thickening is there, cystoid space. There is a little bit of SMD also, and partly there is spongy edema. There is an intact ISOS junction. So why do we want to classify like all this? Basically, these are all prognostic markers. Finally, the patient does not want to ask us whether I have drill or ISOS junction. The patient will ask only one question: whether I will get good vision, doctor. So some of the good prognostic factors are intact ISOS junction, absence of drill, presence of SMD, low central macular thickness, fewer high resolution spots, and fewer or smaller cystoid spaces. Now let us come to some representative cases. This is another case in which intact ISOS junction is there, no drill, small cyst, no high resolution spots, visual acuity before treatment was 6/18, and you can see that after treatment it improved to 6/6 with a 3-line improvement. Another case with pre-treatment vision of 6/24 with the cystoid space, intact ISOS, no drill, and no high resolution spots, improved significantly. Even though there was a hard exudate right in the center, there was a 3-line improvement in vision. Pre-treatment 6/18 with an SMD, drill is present, few high resolution spots, but you can see that visual acuity improved a 3-line improvement after 6 months. Again, another case in which there was a SMD with high resolution spots, ISOS intact. Now you can see that after 6 months, there was a 4-line improvement. What are some of the poor prognostic factors? Presence of drill or disorganization of the inner retinal layers is a poor prognostic factor. Disruption of ISOS junction, very, very important factor. That's a major game changer. High reflective spots suggest inflammation. Large cyst denote chronicity. Epiretinal membrane and vitreomacular adhesions show resistance to anti-VEGFs and posterior hyaloid also. Here you can see 6/12 taut posterior hyaloid, disrupted ISOS junction. You can see there was actually 1-line drop in vision by 6 months. So this is again another case, large cystoid space, hyperreflective spots. That large cyst is right in the center. You can see the visual acuity is not improving at all with injections. Now, this is another patient with numerous high reflective spots and drill. You can see that even with improvement, the morphology improved, but there was no improvement in visual acuity. Even for surgical cases, we should know that if the ISOS is intact, VMA is diffuse, you can see that visual acuity improves significantly. So this is a more vertical component is there, but you can see that VMT outer layers are normal, and after surgery, vision has improved. Whereas here, there is drill and outer segments not defined so well. After surgery, visual improvement is a little less. Now, this is one paper that we recently published, monitoring the cytokines to actually look at responders and non-responders. And what I did was actually look at what happens to, this is the VEGF level with 6 monthly injections. You can see that at 4th month or 5th month, sometimes the VEGF level increases also a little bit, because the patients who require the number of injections at that point of time is less. Now, what was important is, there was, the red line is the non-responder, in which the visual acuity is worse, and the CMT is worse. But when you look at VEGF levels among the responders and the non-responders, since we actually gave injections to these non-responders at the 4th month and the 5th month, and did not give injections to the responders, you can see that the VEGF level actually is lesser in the non-responders, which tells us that it is not VEGF which drives the non-responders, it is the cytokines. So we actually looked at cytokines in those patients, and we had some cases, and I basically tried to correlate these cytokines, IL-6, IL-8, IL-12, IP-10, and MCP-1. These were the significant cytokines which I found, and I correlated these with OCT biomarkers, so that with an OCT biomarker, can we actually pick up the non-responders? And these were the OCT biomarkers that I looked with and correlated with the aqueous biomarkers: the type of edema, spongy or cystoid, hard exudates presence or absent, ISOS junction intact or disrupted, number of high reflective foci less than 10 and more than 10, and drill present or absent, and cone outer segment termination continuous or disrupted. So these were some of the significant things. If it is spongy, the IL-6 levels were 5 times higher than the cystoid type of edema. If the ISOS junction is disrupted, you can see that the IL-6 level was double that of ISOS junction, which is continuous. If drill is present, then it's about 10 times higher. The inflammation is 10 times higher than if drill is absent. So type of edema, again, IL-8 level, spongy, higher IL-8 level. ISOS junction, which is IL-8 is a protective cytokine, unlike IL-6, which is an inflammatory cytokine. So you can see that if ISOS is disrupted, actually the IL-8 level is low. Number of high reflective spots, if less than 10, it is high. So you know that IL-8 is a protective thing. And in all these OCT biomarkers which we linked towards prognosis, you can see that IL-8 level is high and IL-6 level is high wherever we say the OCT biomarkers are basically towards worse prognosis. What about MCP1? Spongy is double that of cystoid, and ISOS junction, which is continuous, double. High reflective foci less than 10 is about 3 times, and hard exudates, if it is absent, it's about double. MCP1 is also a protective. So, I try to correlate the pathology, or etiologic factors with the OCT biomarkers, which we can very easily interpret, and we can say that there is a significant correlation. To conclude, let me say that OCT biomarkers tell us the activity. It will help us define the response to treatment. Good prognostic markers and poor prognostic markers help in counseling the patient significantly. That's a very important thing. Patient always want to know how much treatment will benefit him. And it will also decide on the type of injections. Thank you very much. Over to you, Neha.